Let's get on the bike and ride and talk about this wonderful topic called NIKSEN. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, that when you're actually not doing anything, suddenly ideas start coming into your mind. And I want to share a story that happened on one of my motorcycle rides. I was riding my motorcycle, and this time I didn't have any GoPro attached to my chin. I didn't have any music playing in my ears. I was on the highway just riding. That was it. All that I could feel was lovely breeze on my shoulders, the engine hum, and the vibration through my handlebars and foot pegs. And that is when all of a sudden a thought crossed my mind, and I was amazed. You know, what actually happened was, for the last couple of days, I've been thinking of curating a program, a training program for all the colleagues, the frontline colleagues for whom it's probably their first job. And I was trying to figure out, how can I help them? How can I distill my experience into a module that can help these colleagues to find a way in navigating through the corporate maze and help them grow in their careers. And I was not able to find how I'm going to do this. But on this ride, when I was literally doing nothing but just riding the motorcycle and just being in that state of flow, the idea flashed through my mind. And through the entire ride, I started creating a structure for this module in my mind. And the moment I came back home, I sat down and I created a sketch of this particular program. And then I refined it. I kind of added more value to this whole program. And then eventually I had this module ready with me, which I then called it as Own Your Growth. And I kind of delivered that to probably about 400 or 500 colleagues of mine, and that was so satisfying. And that was not the only time when I got these kind of flashes in my head, or the light bulb moments as we call it, right? It also happened with me at times when I'm taking a shower, or maybe I'm driving to office and I've forgotten to switch on the music, and I'm just driving. Or I'm just sitting in the balcony sipping a cup of tea or coffee with nothing around me, just the chirping of the birds and maybe a slight breeze around. I've got the ideas. Now, little did I realize there is science behind it. The art of doing nothing, and that's called NIKSEN, and how NIKSEN activates that part of your mind which then allows the brain to connect dots and information that you have been holding and bring out something very meaningful for you. And that's exactly what happens, guys and girls. NIKSEN is the art of doing nothing. And on today's ride, I really want to share with you more about NIKSEN and how it helps us without we even knowing. But imagine if you start deliberately practicing NIKSEN, the kind of benefits the art of doing nothing is going to give you is a lot more than you can even imagine. So on that note, let's get on the bike and ride and talk about this wonderful topic called NIKSEN.
And talk more about NIKSEN. And no, this is not just about a feel-good advice. There's actual neuroscience backing this up. So the first question, what is NIKSEN? Okay, so let me explain. Now, NIKSEN is a Dutch concept that literally translates into doing nothing. It's not about laziness or procrastination. It's the deliberate practice of doing nothing without purpose or guilt. You know, the Dutch are famous for a lot of things like bikes, windmills, cheese, but they are also consistently ranked among the happiest people in the world. And researchers think NIKSEN is part of that secret. In our world, we are obsessed with optimization, whether you like it or not. We do meal preps to save time. We listen to audiobooks while we are working out. We answer emails while eating lunch. Even our downtime is so scheduled. You know, we binge watch shows. We doom scroll social media, you stress about your to-do list. There's so much happening, right? And NIKSEN is the opposite. It is consciously choosing to do nothing. No goal, no output, no improvement, just being, just existing, if you really ask me. Now here where it gets really interesting. See, when you practice NIKSEN, something fascinating happens in your brain, something the scientists call the default mode network, or DMN. Now the DMN is a network of the brain region that actually becomes active when you're not focused on the outside world, when you're daydreaming, mind wandering, or yes, doing nothing. That's when the DMN gets activated. It's like your brain's screensaver mode. Now, for decades, scientists thought, this was just your brain being lazy, but research from neuroscientists has shown that the DMN is actually incredibly active. It's consolidating memories, it's processing emotions and making connections between ideas. Seriously, it's during this idle time that your brain reviews what you have learned. It connects the dots, and you don't even know about this, that they're related to each other, and basically it does filing and organizing. This is why your best ideas come probably in the shower or on rides like this. Your DMN or your default mode network is working. Actually, there's a famous story that perfectly illustrates this. Archimedes, right? The Greek mathematician. Legend says he was struggling to figure out how to measure the volume of an irregular object. Now, to be more specific, he was trying to check whether the king's crown was made of pure gold or not. Now, he couldn't solve it. He thought about this problem day and night, worked on the problem for days, but no solution. And then, one day, he was taking a bath, just relaxing in the bathtub, doing nothing. And suddenly, eureka! He noticed the water level rising as he got into the bathtub and realized he could measure volume by water displacement. So look, he wasn't actively working on the problem. He was literally just sitting in a bathtub. But his default mode network was actually making the connections in the background. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the power of doing nothing. See, there's also the stress angle. When we are constantly busy, our sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or the flight system, is constantly activated. Your body is literally in survival mode, pumping out cortisol and adrenaline. Now, what NIKSEN does, it activates something called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest mode. Your heart rate slows down, your cortisol drops, your inflammation decreases. A study from the University in Netherlands also found that people who practiced NIKSEN reported significantly lower stress levels and better emotional regulation. And here's the kicker. Constant busyness actually shrinks your hippocampus. That's a part of the brain that is responsible for memory and learning. Now, chronic stress literally makes you worse at thinking. But rest, it reverses the damage. So why don't we naturally do this? Why doing nothing feels so hard? Now, part of it is cultural. See, we live in a society that glorifies the grind, but there's also a neurological component. See, our brains have, what's called as negativity bias. We are wired to focus on threats and problems. And idle time feels dangerous because we're not solving anything. We're not being productive. Plus, we become addicted to dopamine hits. Every notification, every like, every new piece of content gives us a little reward. Doing nothing, there's no dopamine, so our brain resists it. But here is what the research shows. When we never give our brain downtime, we experience decision fatigue, reduced creativity, and what psychologists call as cognitive load. Your brain is like a computer, and if too many tabs are open, eventually it crashes. A study from the University of California found that people who took regular breaks to do nothing actually performed better on creative problem solving tasks than those who pushed through and put a lot of effort. Another study from, I think, Microsoft Research found that our brains can only focus effectively for about 90-minute interval for needing some real rest. Now, think about all the famous breakthrough moments in history. Isaac Newton watching an apple fall, Albert Einstein imagining riding a beam of light, Paul McCartney hearing Yesterday in a dream. Now, none of these happened at the desk grinding away. They happened during rest, during downtime, during those NIKSEN moments. Your brain will collect all the information and join the dots and present you with a solution. Now the question is, how does one practice NIKSEN? Let's talk about it. So, how can you find your own version of NIKSEN? Now, it doesn't have to be writing. Though if you're watching this channel, it might be. Now, the first step, start small. Mind you, this is not meditation, because even meditation, you're actually focusing on the breath. NIKSEN is not about focusing anything, just staying in a free flow state. NIKSEN is about literally doing nothing. Just sit on your couch, stare out of the window, watch the clouds, or like me, if you like riding, get on a bike and go for a ride. No distractions, no music, nothing. Let it just be idle. Second, let go of guilt. This is key. See, NIKSEN isn't about being lazy. It's basically intentional rest. Your brain needs this like your body needs sleep. Science prove it. This is when your default mode network, or DMN, does its maintenance work. This is when your eureka moments happen. Third, find your activity. For me, it's riding without any agenda. For you, it may be walking, sitting by water, lying in the grass, or taking a long bath like Archimedes. The key is no goal, no phone, no podcast, just being present. Fourth, protect this time fiercely. The world will always demand more from you. There will always be one more email, one more thing to optimize, but your NIKSEN time, that is sacred. That's when you recharge, you reset, and reconnect with yourself. Look, the science is clear. Your brain isn't designed to be constantly stimulated. It needs downtime to process, consolidate, and create. From Archimedes in his bathtub to modern neuroscience to my rides on this bike, we know that breakthroughs happen when we stop trying so hard. In a world that constantly demands more, faster, better, choosing to do nothing is actually one of the most intelligent things you can do. You're not being lazy. You're optimizing your most important tool, which is your brain. So here's my challenge, guys and girls, for you. Find your version of NIKSEN. Maybe it's a ride like this. Maybe it's something completely different, but give yourself permission to do it without guilt, which is a key aspect. Do it without a purpose, without trying to get something out of it. And let me know in the comments what your version of doing nothing is. Have you found that NIKSEN activity? And if you ride, when was the last time you rode just for the sake of riding? Now, thanks for riding with me today. If you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe and like button. And remember, sometimes the best things you can do is nothing at all. Take good care of yourselves and if possible someone else. And on that note, I'll see you again on the next ride with something more interesting. Bye for now.